Hey guys, tonight we're slipping back into one of the worst times in human history. The mid-1300s, when a single flea bite could be your ticket to the afterlife. It's 1347. Europe is on the brink of something no one sees coming. Not the priests, not the kings, not even the guy selling holy toenail relics in the town square. You probably think you could survive the Black Death. You'd wash your hands, stay inside, ration food, light a scented candle, maybe order some turmeric. That's adorable. You wouldn't have made it a week. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know where you're listening from and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're born in a decent enough place. Let's call it Florence, but honestly it could be anywhere within coughing distance of the Mediterranean. Maybe you help your father in his shop. Maybe you run errands, sweep the stoop, barter for onions. You've heard rumours, strange ones, about something happening far away in a port called Kaffa. Something about the dead being hurled over city walls. You ignore it. It's not your problem. Yet. The year is 1347. A Genoese trading ship limps into Messina, Sicily. The crew is dying, or already dead. You, of course, don't hear about this right away. News travels slower than fleas, but when it reaches you, it comes in fragments. A sailor vomiting black blood. Boils the size of eggs. People dead within days. You laugh nervously and call it superstition. A week later, 2 ships dock nearby. One unloads grain. The other, well, nobody talks about it. But soon after, the town crier starts ringing his bell more often. You notice it. Everyone does. It's hard not to. He doesn't cry out births or marriages anymore. Just the names of the dead. At first you try to keep your routines. You walk to market. You nod to neighbours. You joke that the butcher's wife always looked a little plaguey. But you're nervous. You cough once while feeding the chickens and immediately question your life choices. The problem is, you live in a city. And cities in 1347 are basically human petri dishes. You live close to your neighbours. The street doubles as a latrine. Waste management consists of fling it and hope for the best. There are no sewage systems. Your water comes from the same source as the horses. If you're lucky, you have a window. If you're luckier, it doesn't face the corpse cart. Your house is small, maybe a single room. You sleep with your family, you eat with them, you sneeze near them. If one of you gets sick, all of you do. There is no isolation, no sick leave, no door signs that say quarantined in cute cursive. It's just sick, suffer, hope. Historians still argue whether the disease arrived by flea-ridden rats or infected sailors, or both. It doesn't really matter to you because you didn't see the rats come in. You just noticed the dogs barking more, the cats disappearing, a weird smell that lingers longer each morning. Your neighbour, Pietro, is the first to show signs. You see him one morning in the alleyway, hunched, sweating, his neck swollen like it's hiding a stone. He waves you off when you approach. You back away. You don't want to be rude, but you also don't want to die. That night you hear wailing from their home. You don't ask questions, and still, you stay. You think, maybe it'll pass. Maybe it's just this block. Maybe the saints will intervene. You say a prayer to St. Sebastian because someone told you he's good against plagues. You don't know why. Something about arrows. And here's a fun fringe tidbit. Some people think the plague is caused by bad air, miasma, so they walk around with herbs shoved in their nostrils. The richer ones burn sulphur and wear silk masks. You press rosemary to your face and hope it's doing something. Spoiler, it's not. By now, your town is in full rumour mode. Don't drink the well water. Don't eat figs. Bathe in vinegar. Avoid people with blue eyes. None of it helps, but you cling to any advice because panic always comes dressed as wisdom. You hear about entire villages further inland, gone. No survivors, just empty homes and overgrown fields. You hear about cities locking their gates, and still, people flee from the coast, thinking they can outrun death if they move fast enough. You wonder, should you leave? But where would you go? You're not rich. You don't have a horse, or a second pair of shoes, and besides, your aunt lives 2 streets away. You promised her bread. You promised your mother you'd help with the laundry, so you stay. Here's the real kicker. You're young, reasonably healthy, you wash your hands in river water, and you still don't stand a chance. Because the truth is, the plague doesn't care about your optimism, or your intentions, or how many prayers you whisper before sleep. It's already here, in the walls, in the hay, on the back of a rat snuggled in the warm creases of your thatched roof. You go to sleep that night with a sore throat. You tell yourself it's just from shouting over the market noise. But you know better. You always did. You wake up with your head pounding like a badly tuned church bell. Your mouth is dry, your limbs ache, and your neck feels strangely stiff. You sit up slowly, hoping it's just a bad sleep on too much straw. But then you notice the swelling, just beneath your jaw, a hard lump, warm and pulsing like something alive under the skin. You prod it with your fingers. Bad idea. The pain is sharp and immediate, radiating into your ear and down your throat. You lie back down. Maybe it's just a boil. People get boils. The baker had one last spring, and he's fine now. Well, he moved away actually, but maybe for unrelated reasons. You tell yourself you'll rest. 1 day, maybe 2. But you've barely drifted off again before the town crier shuffles past. You recognise his voice. He's listing names. 5 today. You know 3 of them. You press your hands over your ears, but it's no use. The names find their way in. You try to eat something. Stale bread mostly. Everything tastes like dust. You sip from a cracked cup of rainwater, praying that it hasn't gone foul. You start to sweat, even though the air is cool. Your blanket feels like fire. You kick it off, then shiver until your teeth chatter. This is fine, you think. Just a summer chill. It's not even summer. It's not fine. The streets outside are changing, fewer voices, fewer carts. The sounds of normal life, the gossip, the kids shouting, the clanging of pans are going quiet. You hear something else now. Coughing. All the time. Wet and ragged and close. Your mother returns from the well with a cloth tied over her face. She doesn't mention your fever. She just sets down the water jug and leaves a bowl of thyme-scented broth by your bed. You try to thank her, but the words come out wrong, thick and sluggish. She kisses your forehead, then quickly wipes her lips on her sleeve. You realise she's afraid of you. You weren't always stuck indoors. Just days ago, was it days? You were walking to the market, laughing at something your cousin said about the town priest's unfortunate haircut. Now you stare at the same ceiling beam for hours, tracking a cobweb like it's telling time. And here's the kicker. You can't even be sure you've got the plague yet. Historians still argue whether some people simply had influenza, dysentery, or another illness entirely. But it doesn't matter. You're in the city. People are dropping in their doorways, and if you don't have it now, you probably will by tomorrow. You hear shouting outside. You crawl to the window and lift the corner of the cloth covering it. A cart rolls past. No horses, just 2 men dragging it with ropes. It's full. You don't want to look, but you do. You always do. There's a leg dangling over the edge. No blanket, no ceremony, just bodies. The men don't stop. They move to the next house. Knock. Pause. No answer. They go in. It's been 4 days since you first felt sick. The lump has grown. You name it. Bernard. He's round, red, and seems to have his own heartbeat. You hate Bernard. You beg the saints to evict him. You'd even take flagellation if it helped. Speaking of which, the flagellants arrived today. They walk in from the west gate, barefoot, chanting, their backs raw from whipping themselves in public. Someone says they're trying to earn God's forgiveness for all of mankind. You're not sure who appointed them spokespersons for humanity, but they definitely believe they're helping. You watch from the window propped against the wall. They sing a droning hymn as they pass. It's oddly comforting, in a deeply unsettling sort of way. You think, maybe I'll join them, hit the road, wear a sackcloth, grow a tragic beard. But the second you stand up, you nearly pass out. So instead, you lie back down and decide to spiritually participate. From bed. Like a respectable medieval introvert. There's a fringe theory going around that staring at a fire can drive out the plague. So you light a candle, you stare. Nothing happens except you burn your thumb trying to fix the wick. Maybe that's the cure. Maybe it just hasn't kicked in yet. You ask your mother about leaving the city. She hesitates. Says the roads are blocked. The countryside's full of thieves. The last family that tried to leave was turned away at the next village. People don't want newcomers right now, not unless they come bearing food, gold, or a divine guarantee of being germ-free. You dream that night. Vivid, strange dreams. A feast in a cathedral. A black dog sitting at your chest, staring into your eyes. You wake up gasping. Fever dreams. Everyone talks about them. Some say they're visions from the saints. Others think it's just the heat baking your brain. You shuffle to the basin and splash cold water on your face. Your reflection is pale, gaunt, unfamiliar. You were never the healthiest person, but this version of you looks temporary. You wish you had a doctor, a real one, not the travelling peddler who offers you a pouch of dried rose petals and something he calls blessed rat powder. You thank him anyway, because he looks sad and you think he might cry if you don't. The swelling under your neck begins to leak. Bernard has turned from a bump into a situation. You bind it in a cloth soaked in vinegar. Your mother burns lavender by your bedside. She hums while she does it, like she's trying to distract you, or herself. Here's a strange fact. Some people believe loud noises scare the plague away. You hear someone beating a drum in the square that night. Just one person. Just the one beat, over and over again. You wonder if it's working. You wonder if they'll stop. You kind of hope they don't. You drift again. You think of sunlit fields, grapes on the vine, warm bread and dry feet and quiet mornings where the worst thing you had to worry about was finding a clean tunic. It's hard to tell what time it is now. The bell doesn't ring anymore. The priest is sick. Half the altar boys are gone. There's no one left to announce the hours. So the day blurs into the next and you wait. For better, for worse, for whatever comes next. You wake to the sound of someone retching in the alley. The kind of sound that twists the stomach. Deep, ragged, desperate. You lie still, watching morning light bleed through the boards in your window. It's softer than usual. Quieter too. Almost gentle, if you ignore the fact that you're sweating through your blanket, and every joint in your body feels like it's been cursed by an angry blacksmith. The lump, Bernard, is still with you. He's larger now, angrier, pus-filled and tender, like a fruit left too long in the sun. Your mother won't touch it. You tried asking. She just looked at it, crossed herself 3 times and said she'd go light a candle. That was yesterday. She hasn't come back yet. You try to stand and your knees buckle. You catch yourself on the wall. The stone is cool against your cheek. You stay like that a while, breathing slowly, trying to remember what it felt like to be strong. Let's be honest, your immune system was never going to save you. This is the 14th century. You've never seen an orange, never boiled water, and the last time you bathed, a goat drank from the tub before you could climb in. You live in a world where clean is a concept, not a category. There's no understanding of germs yet, not even a whisper of it. The idea that tiny invisible monsters might live on your hands would sound like sorcery to you. Most people believe the sickness comes from the stars or the alignment of planets. Others say it's the bad air, miasma. So they fill their homes with herbs and perfume and occasionally light fires indoors, which historically speaking only solves one problem by starting another. You think you're doing everything right. You chew sage. You dab vinegar behind your ears. You avoid dairy. Someone said dairy makes the plague worse. No one explains why, but you're not in a position to ask questions. Historians still argue whether the plague mutated over time, or if it was actually 3 different diseases masquerading as one. Bubonic, pneumonic, septicemic. Doesn't matter which kind you get, they all want the same thing. You. You hear the neighbours arguing next door. It's muffled through the stone, but you catch the tone. Fear. Someone's missing. Maybe dead. Maybe locked in a room. You press your ear to the wall. A pan clatters. A chair scrapes. Silence. You're not even the worst off in the house. Your younger brother Thomas has started coughing. He's just 6. He doesn't understand why no one will hold him. Your mother cries when he's not looking. You cry too, but quieter. You don't want to scare him. In a moment of relative energy, you shuffle to the door and peek out. The street is nearly empty. A dog trots by, ribs visible. There's a cart turned over in the ditch, flies buzzing over something you don't want to name. You spot the apothecary trudging along the far wall. His pack is lighter than usual. He doesn't stop at houses anymore, just throws small bundles at the doors and keeps walking. You bang on the wood to get his attention. He looks, meets your eyes, then shakes his head and keeps going. You don't blame him. Here's a strange little tidbit. Some people try carrying sweet-smelling apples to keep the plague away. Others stuff cut onions into their clothes. You try both. The apple rots. The onion leaks. The house smells like a salad left in the sun. You lie in bed and try to remember what health felt like. The warm flush of walking in the sun. The gentle ache of lifting a basket of bread. The simple pleasure of laughing without a stabbing pain in your ribs. You miss those things like lost friends. You start talking to Bernard again. Not out loud, not yet, but he's there, a constant presence. You think if you can convince him you're on his side, maybe he'll go easy on you. Bernard is unconvinced. Your father brings in a sack of straw to replace your mattress. The old one started to mould. He doesn't speak, just sets it down, nods, and leaves. You notice he's wearing gloves now, the leather kind he usually saves for slaughtering hogs. You try not to take it personally. You fall into half sleep. Dreams come in odd flashes. A goat that speaks in Latin. A market where everyone wears masks shaped like birds. A child standing in a river, waving goodbye. You wake each time soaked in sweat and unsure whether it was real. They say the plague spares no one, but that's not entirely true. Some people recover. Not many, but some. You cling to that idea. You imagine yourself in the spring walking through fields scarred but alive. It's a nice image. You hold on to it like a talisman. But survival comes down to odds. And your odds? Well, let's just say you're not on nature's VIP list. The house is quieter now. Your brother's coughing has stopped. That should be good news. It doesn't feel like good news. You try to call out, but your throat is raw. Your voice comes out dry and papery. You wonder how many people on this street are still alive. You wonder how many will be here tomorrow. You hear a bell, just once. Not the church bell, someone's handbell. You know what that means. There's a cart outside, someone's been marked for collection. You lie very still, hoping they don't knock. They don't. Yet. You don't remember falling asleep, but you wake in the dark and everything hurts. Your skin feels too tight. Your breath comes in short bursts. And Bernard has developed a twin. You name the new lump Beatrice. They throb together like an off-key duet. Lovely. Your mother returns with a rag soaked in something that smells like vinegar and regret. She doesn't say much anymore, just dabs at your forehead and prays under her breath. You hear the names, saints mostly, and a few family members who are already gone. She adds your name once. That part makes you cry. You're not alone in the house, but it feels like you are. Your father sleeps sitting up in the corner, a knife in his lap. Not because of thieves, there's nothing left to steal, but because some people have started losing their minds, screaming in the streets, tearing at their clothes, babbling about angels. Your father is keeping watch in case one wanders too close. You hear about someone who tried to cure their child by submerging them in ice water. Another who placed a toad on their chest and chanted. Neither method worked, but it gave the town something to whisper about for a day. Historians still argue whether these fringe cures were born of tradition, desperation, or just boredom. You suspect all three. You try to distract yourself with little things, counting the beams in the ceiling, following the pattern of knots in the wood, creating an elaborate backstory for the rat that lives under the cupboard. His name is Niccolo. He's an aspiring poet. He wears a hat. The fever makes you strange. You remember your friend Luca. He left town 2 days ago, said he'd heard of a monastery in the hills that hadn't been touched by the plague. You wonder if he made it. You hope he did. You also hope he doesn't come back. You couldn't handle losing him twice. The city has stopped pretending. There are no sermons, no processions, no more "this too shall pass" speeches. Just locked doors and shuttered windows. People are waiting, not for healing, but for silence. Your neighbour, the blacksmith, had 7 children. Now there's only one. The little girl sits on the stoop all day, holding a doll with a cracked face. You wave at her from your window. She waves back. Neither of you smiles. You're used to the smell now. That's probably a bad sign. Your body has accepted it, death and rot and damp wool as background noise. You wonder if your lungs will ever feel clean again. The plague doctor finally visits. You've seen him before, long black robes, gloves, boots, and that horrible mask shaped like a bird's beak. Up close, it's worse. The glass eyes reflect your swollen face back at you, distorted. He doesn't speak, just lifts your chin with a stick, pokes your armpit, and scribbles something on a parchment. You ask if it's serious. He shrugs. The stick is soaked in rose oil. He hands your father a small cloth bag and leaves. Inside are herbs, wormwood, mint, camphor. They smell nice, that is all. You wonder if anyone has ever recovered because of a mint sachet. Probably not, but the gesture is oddly comforting. Like a goodbye hug from someone you don't know well. Your mother hangs the bag over your bed. You pretend it helps. There's a new sound in the streets, singing, not hymns, laughter. Drunken voices, music. You think you're hallucinating until your father opens the door a crack and peeks out. A group of men and women, masked and half naked, are dancing through the square. Flagellants again? Ooh. This is different. These are survivors. Or maybe just people too tired to be scared. They're celebrating something, being alive maybe, or being numb. You watch them until they disappear around the corner. You're not sure if they were real. You feel better the next morning. Not good, just less bad. Your limbs move without screaming. Bernard and Beatrice have scabbed over. You eat an entire bowl of broth without gagging. It feels like progress, but you've learnt not to trust good days. The plague plays games. It gives hope like a coin toss. Heads you heal, tails you get a new lump in your groin. You notice the flies now. Not just a few. Swarms. You wonder if they're part of it too. Historians still debate the role of different insects. Fleas carried the disease, yes. But flies? Maybe. You watch one land on your hand. You don't swat it. You're too tired. Your father tells you that 3 more families have abandoned their homes, left them open, took what they could carry and vanished into the hills. He doesn't blame them. He just worries the rest of town will do the same. You ask what will happen if everyone leaves. He shrugs. Maybe then it'll stop. You dream again that night. A field of bones, each one labelled with a name you recognise. You walk among them searching for your own. You don't find it. You wake up relieved. Or maybe disappointed. You hear someone reading scripture on the street. It's the priest. His voice is hoarse, but he's standing. That surprises you. He's been gone for days. He reads something about endurance. You don't catch the words, just the tone. Tired, trembling, still trying. You lie back, watching dust fall in the golden light of a new morning. You still have the fever, you still have Bernard, but you're breathing. And for now, that's enough. You're not better, not really, but you're not worse either. And in plague times, that passes for good news. Your head still throbs, your joints ache like they've been pickled, and your dreams are the kind that leave you unsettled even after you wake. But you're waking, that's more than most can say. Bernard and Beatrice have flattened a little. They no longer pulse with the same furious energy. Your fever still burns low in the background like coals buried deep in ash, but it's not the kind that makes you see talking goats anymore. You even sit up on your own today, a minor miracle. You half expect the saints to send you a congratulatory goose. Your father gives you a half smile when he sees you upright. Not a full one, no teeth and certainly no jokes, but a twitch of the mouth that says, you haven't died yet, so that's something. He gives you a cup of watered wine. It tastes like spoiled raisins and hope. You take a few cautious steps outside, not far, just to the threshold. The skies are dull grey. The wind smells like rain, wood smoke, and something far worse. You stand in the doorway and let the breeze touch your face. It feels real. After so long wrapped in blankets and sickness and silence, this moment is the closest you've come to feeling human again. The streets are emptier than ever. The cobbler's shop is shuttered. The tavern hasn't opened in days. A single chicken wanders by with the confidence of a duchess. You wonder where she's going. Probably somewhere less cursed. You hear someone sobbing a few houses down. Not loud, not theatrical, just the quiet, empty sort of crying that people do when there's no one left to hear. You step back inside, and that's when you remember the cures. Because as bad as the sickness is, the so-called cures are worse. You've heard them all by now. Tie a live chicken to your buboes. Drink mercury mixed with crushed emeralds. Apply a paste made from tree bark and human fat. There's even a man, probably an uncle to someone important, who swears that sitting in a sewer for 3 hours a day keeps the disease away. You don't try that one. You'd rather take your chances with the plague. Your mother tried a simpler remedy. Burned rosemary, hung garlic from the rafters, placed cold clay pots at the corners of the house to trap the bad humours. The place now smells like an herbalist's shop that lost a fight with a compost heap. Historians still argue whether these remedies were expressions of hope, superstition, or just something to do when you were waiting to die. Maybe they were all of those things. Maybe they were a way to give yourself the illusion of control, and honestly, who could blame anyone? You hear someone outside shouting, "Bloodletting! Get your bloodletting here! Guaranteed to balance your humours and cool your fever!" You peer through the slats and see a man with red-stained sleeves and a knife that should absolutely not be used on humans. 2 people are in line. You shake your head and go back to bed. Bernard may be rude, but at least he didn't leave a scar. There's talk of angels in the air now, not the sweet harp-strumming ones from church paintings. No, These are pale figures seen in the corners of rooms, or shadows glimpsed behind your eyelids. Everyone seems to have seen one. You think maybe you've seen one too. You woke once and swore someone was standing at the end of your bed just watching. You blinked and they were gone. Probably a dream, or not. And here's a curious little fact. Some people in the countryside began to believe that plague victims could be healed by laying on a black hen and reciting the Lord's Prayer backward. You try it in your head just to see if you can. You get halfway through before giving up. Latin isn't your strong suit when you're running a 102-degree fever. The strange thing is, even now, even in the depths of illness, people still want stories. Your father starts telling you little tales at night, legends of saints who cured sickness with a glance, or peasants who survived 7 plagues and went on to live 100 years. You nod along. You don't believe any of them, but they're nice to hear. They help you forget your skin hurts. You manage to wash your hands for the first time in a week. The water is cold and the soap is a rock-hard lump that smells like stale herbs, but it makes you feel almost civilized. You look at your fingers, pale, trembling, scarred, and wonder how they ever held a hammer or tied a ribbon. Outside, the cart returns. You don't need to see it to know it's there. You hear the wheels, wood grinding over cobblestones, and the soft clink of a bell. They don't call names anymore. They just collect. You close your eyes and pretend it's a dream. Pretend you're somewhere else. A warm inn, a bowl of stew, the sound of music drifting through the rafters. But the creak of those wheels always brings you back. Later, your mother places a small bowl of rosewater by your bed. She tells you it's from the merchant who used to sell spices. He's gone now, but he left a few goods behind. You dip your fingers in and press them to your temples. It does nothing for the fever, but it smells beautiful. You hold that scent like a secret, like proof that the world used to be gentle once. You don't know if you're improving, maybe. Or maybe the plague is just taking its time. Either way, you close your eyes and try to sleep. The night air hums outside, low and restless. You pretend it's just the wind. You pretend a lot of things. But most of all, you pretend you're going to make it. You wake in the early light, shivering. Not from fever this time, but because the fire's gone out and no one remembered to stoke it. Your breath fogs in front of your face. For a moment, you're not sure if you're alive. You don't feel sick exactly, but you don't feel anything. Just cold and hollow. Bernard and Beatrice are still there, but quiet now, not gone, just brooding. You poke at them with a finger, lightly, still tender, still yours. You're not sure if that's good news or bad, but at least they haven't recruited a 3rd member for their little club. You swing your legs over the edge of the bed, touch the ground, and flinch. The stone is icy. You shuffle across the room, no one's around. The house is still, too still. You call out once, no answer. You find your father in the corner, sitting on a stool with his head in his hands. His hair looks greyer than it did yesterday. He doesn't look up, just mutters something about the well being dry and the baker's boy turning black. You sit down beside him and say nothing. Outside it's raining, a slow, steady drizzle that soaks everything and makes the world smell like damp rot. You stare out at the puddles forming in the street. A broken boot floats past. A dog drinks from the edge of a waterlogged ditch. The rain feels like some kind of joke. The kind of weather you expect for funerals and failed crops. You close the shutters. You try to eat, but nothing tastes right. The bread is hard, the broth is thin, and the apple has gone soft and brown on the inside. Your stomach growls anyway, like it's just following orders, even if there's nothing worth protesting over. Hunger is weird like that. It sticks around long after hope's already packed up and left. Someone knocks on the door, not the panicked banging of days past. Just a slow, polite tap. You freeze. Your father stiffens. No one moves. The knock comes again. Tap, tap, tap. He finally rises and opens the door a crack. It's a woman from 3 houses down. You barely recognise her. She's wrapped in layers of cloth, and what skin you can see is raw and cracked from the wind. She asks if you've seen her husband. You haven't. She nods like that's the answer she expected, then leaves without another word. You don't ask why she's out in the rain. You've been thinking about leaving again. Not in a dramatic way, just the quiet, private kind of planning you do in your head when you can't sleep. Maybe the hills would be better. Maybe the monastery still has food. Maybe there's a village somewhere untouched, where people laugh and bake, and nobody says the word bubo. But deep down you know better. You've heard enough stories from those who tried. Villages burning their own bridges to stop outsiders. Monks turning people away with spears. Wolves coming down from the woods, not even afraid of humans anymore. The world is smaller now and meaner. Historians still argue whether people in the countryside fared better. Some say the spread was slower. Others say it just took longer for death to find them. You don't feel like a case study. You feel like an afterthought. The priest comes back around noon. He's thinner now, with hollow cheeks and eyes that look like he hasn't slept since Advent. He offers last rites, not just to the dying. He says it's proactive. You decline gently, so you're not ready to admit it might be time. He gives you a wafer anyway, dry and dusty as ever, and places his hand on your head. It's shaking. You try to read a psalm after he leaves, but the words blur together. You close the book. You're too tired to be pious today. Here's something odd. A man walks down the street covered in red paint. Not blood, paint. He says it wards off evil spirits. You watch him splash it on doorways and cobblestones. He hums a tune you vaguely recognise, something your mother used to sing when you were little. You don't know if it's working, but the colour's kind of nice. At least it's something bright. Later you spot the little girl again, the one with the cracked doll. She's alone standing under a tattered umbrella that's far too large for her. You wave. She doesn't wave back this time. Your brother's cough has returned. At first it's just a tickle, then a rasp, then that wet, rattling kind of cough that makes you clench your jaw every time you hear it. He tries to hide it, even smiles at you when you ask. But he knows. You both know. Your mother ties a cloth around her mouth again. Not because she thinks it'll help, it's just what you do when you're scared and there's nothing else left to do. The fire goes out that night. No one bothers to relight it. You lie in bed, listening to the wind scrape along the walls and the far-off howl of something, not a dog, not quite. You think about what life used to be like, not just before the plague, but before the fear. Before the air felt heavy. Before the days melted together like candle wax and sleep brought more dread than peace. You miss arguments, laughter, the sound of a pot boiling over. You remember the smell of warm bread. You cry quietly into your pillow, but only for a minute. Then you stop. Because crying takes energy and you're running low. Still you whisper goodnight to your brother, and to Bernard and Beatrice, and to Nicolo the rat, because they're all you've got. You don't hear the bell anymore. Not the church bell, not the handbell, not the soft one they used to ring before a cart came for the dead. Either they've stopped using it, or your ears have learned to tune it out, like a bird that doesn't sing anymore, because nobody's listening. Your brother is quiet now, not better, just quiet. He lies on the floor beside the hearth, bundled in every scrap of cloth the house can spare. His eyes are half closed, moving just enough to let you know he's still in there. You hold his hand when he lets you. Sometimes he pulls away. Other times he grips too tightly, like he's afraid you'll vanish if he doesn't keep hold. The cough has spread to your father. He pretends he's fine, coughs into his sleeve, clears his throat, changes the subject. But his voice is getting rougher, and when he walks, he favours his left side like something inside is pulling him off balance. You don't say anything. He wouldn't want you to. You try to clean the house. Not because it matters now, there are no guests coming, no neighbours stopping in, but because it gives you something to do. You sweep the same corner 3 times. You rearrange the food jars, you count the spoons. There are only 2 left. The street outside is silent. Even the chickens are gone now. No cats on the rooftops, no dogs barking in the distance. Just the wind, and sometimes the creak of a sign that hasn't been taken down yet. You open the shutters for a moment, just to let in the light, and the brightness makes you squint. You're not used to it anymore. Someone has chalked a red X on the door across from yours. That means no one's left inside, or at least no one you'd want to meet. You hear a scream around midday. Short, sharp, and then cut off. No one checks, not even you. That's just the way it is now. People scream, then they don't. And then you do see something strange. A child, maybe 8, maybe 10, walking down the middle of the street. Alone. No coat, no shoes, just a strip of cloth tied around his head. He's carrying a bucket that doesn't look like it has anything in it. He walks slowly, like he's listening for something. You tap the window. He doesn't look up, he just keeps walking, bucket swinging from his fingers. You never see him again. You ask your mother that night if she's scared. She nods, just once. Then she leans her head against your shoulder and whispers that she thinks she's seen angels. She says they gather near the well when it's foggy. You want to say she's hallucinating, but part of you hopes she's not. There's a new smell now. You hadn't thought that was possible. You'd gotten used to the old ones, mildew, sweat, smoke, sickness. But this is different. Metallic, sharp, like rain on iron but heavier. It lingers in the back of your throat, like a taste more than a scent. Your mother says it's the air turning bad. The sky's been holding its breath, she tells you, and now it's letting go. You don't know what that means, but you nod like it does. You read a line from a prayer book. Deliver us from pestilence, from famine, from sudden death. You repeat it until the words lose meaning. They become a kind of rhythm, a soft background hum to your thoughts. Your brother mouths the words with you. Or maybe he's just mouthing something else. You can't tell. And here's something historians still argue over. Why some cities were hit harder than others. Why some towns emptied in weeks, while others lingered for months. Geography, luck, the direction of the wind, no one agrees. You wonder if your town's just stubborn, or forgotten. The merchant's son, Rico, shows up at your door that evening. He's wearing gloves made from sackcloth and a scarf over his face. He holds out a satchel of dried peas and a cracked flask of oil. Doesn't say where he got them. Doesn't stay long. You offer him a slice of turnip. He takes it, bows, leaves. You hope you'll see him again. You don't. You wake in the night to whispering. First you think it's a dream, then you realise it's real. Your mother and father are talking softly in the corner. You catch pieces of it. If it gets worse, we'll have to. The boy can't take care of him alone. You close your eyes and pretend you didn't hear. Later your mother wraps a scarf around your brother's chest to ease his coughing. She tells him stories about a goose that laid golden eggs and a knight who outwitted the plague by hiding in a barrel of honey. You smile even though your throat is tight. You don't want her to stop talking. It starts to snow that night. Just a dusting. Enough to whiten the rooftops and hush the world even further. You press your hand to the window pane and feel the cold leach through your skin. Everything is slower in snow, quieter. The sound of hooves, of footsteps, even the wind, dampened. It's almost peaceful. Almost. You wonder what spring will look like. Will there be people left to plant, to gather, to dance? You wrap your arms around yourself and think of warmth, of sun on your face, of running through the market square barefoot and laughing, of your brother giggling at pigeons, of a life that felt wider once. You whisper goodnight to no one in particular. Maybe the walls, maybe the saints, maybe the snow. And then you close your eyes, just for a little while. Snow makes everything look cleaner, which is honestly the biggest lie nature's ever told. It covers the filth, the rot, the stains on the stone steps, and for a brief moment, your town looks almost innocent again. Like it hasn't been losing people one by one for weeks, like it isn't still dying quietly. You open the door just enough to feel the cold air on your face. The sky is pale, like old parchment, and the ground crunches under your feet. You haven't stepped outside in days, maybe weeks. The sun reflects off the snow in a way that makes your eyes water. It's beautiful, which is suspicious. Beauty lately has been followed by tragedy. You walk slowly towards the well, just to see if the angels are there. They're not. Just an empty bucket, frozen rope, and a few abandoned footprints that fade into the alley. You breathe out, and your breath ghosts away like it's escaping something. On your way back, you see a cart stuck in the snow, half full or half empty. A shape is slumped over the edge, frozen into place. You don't look too long. Your brother didn't wake up this morning. He's still warm when you find him, which makes it worse somehow. Like he just stepped out of the room for a second and will be back any moment to tug on your sleeve and ask for honey bread. But he doesn't move. His chest doesn't rise. You sit beside him, watching the snow settle outside the window. Your father carries him out later, wraps him in the last good blanket, doesn't speak, just walks down the road, toward the field beyond the chapel, where the priest told people they could bury their own. You want to go with him, but your mother pulls you back, says it's better this way. You nod, even though you don't believe her. The house is quieter now, not just silent, empty, like a song that lost its melody. Your mother stops praying, not out of anger, she just forgets to. She goes through the motions of each day, but her eyes stay unfocused, always looking just past you. You try to talk to her about the weather, about the snow, about the ridiculous man who painted his horse blue yesterday and claimed it could smell sickness. She barely reacts. You miss her. There's food left, technically. Dried peas, a turnip so shriveled it looks like a crone's nose, a bottle of something that might be oil or vinegar or both. You eat in silence, chewing slowly to make it last. Here's a strange fact. In some towns, people started eating candle wax to survive. Not because it tasted good, but because it was there. You run your finger along the edge of a half-burned taper. You get it now. Historians still debate how accurate the death toll really was. Some records say a third of Europe died. Others claim it was more, closer to half. But the real number doesn't matter when it's your brother, your neighbour, your mother slowly forgetting how to smile. Statistics don't carry buckets or sing lullabies. You walk again, just to move, just to feel your legs remember what they're for. You pass shuttered windows, locked doors, boots left outside with the snow gathering in their cuffs. You don't knock, no one answers anymore anyway. You pause at the chapel, the bell is still there, though the rope's frayed. You pull it once, softly. A low, dull clang echoes over the rooftops. No one stirs. You light a candle for your brother. You don't say anything, you just watch it burn. Later, someone breaks into your home. You don't see them, you hear them. Wood splintering, footsteps too heavy to be rats. You hide behind the barrel in the corner and clutch a kitchen knife you barely know how to use. But whoever it is, they don't stay long. Just take the peas and the oil. Leave everything else. Your mother doesn't even react when you tell her. Just nods, says, they needed it more. You hate how reasonable that sounds. That night you try to remember what laughter feels like. Not the sound of it. There's plenty of that in dreams and old memories. But the physical feeling of joy, that rush in your chest, the loss of breath, the ache in your ribs from something being so funny it almost hurts. You can't conjure it. Not quite. You wish you could. The snow turns to slush by morning, grey and wet and clinging to everything. You slip walking back from the well and land hard, bruising your hip. You laugh, actually laugh, just once. Because of course the one time you leave the house, the world decides to tackle you. You limp back, grinning in spite of yourself. You hear footsteps behind you, but when you turn, there's no one there. You ask your mother if she's seen the angels again. She shakes her head. Then, after a long pause, she says, maybe they're tired too. You think that might be the saddest thing anyone's ever said. You press a piece of stale bread to your lips and try to taste something, anything. It still tastes like ash. You lie in bed and think about spring again, about how the trees used to bloom near the well, about how the market smelled like spices and bread and livestock, about how once someone played music in the square and you danced, barefoot and laughing, until the stars came out. You close your eyes and pretend the candle next to your bed is the sun. You pretend you're still warm. You pretend he's still breathing. The first thing you hear is a bell. Not the soft clink of the cart bell or the chapel's lonely toll. This one is sharper, louder, carried on the wind like it has somewhere to be. You sit up startled. Your body aches in its usual way, which is honestly reassuring at this point. But the sound, you're not imagining it. Someone is ringing the church bell again. You limp to the window and press your face to the glass. A small group has gathered in the square. 6 people, maybe 7. It's the most you've seen together in weeks. One of them is ringing the bell, hand over hand, teeth clenched like he's hauling hope itself out of the sky. You call to your mother, but she doesn't stir. You leave her sleeping and pull on your cloak. It still smells like smoke and vinegar, but it fits. That feels like a small victory. You open the door and step into the slush. The snow is gone now, replaced by puddles and mud. The air carries a new kind of cold, not biting, but damp and earthy, like something thawing. You take careful steps, your bruised hip reminding you not to get cocky. When you reach the square, you stop. They're singing, softly, off-key, with voices hoarse from silence, but singing. An old hymn, one you barely remember. Something about mercy and renewal. No one's dressed for a celebration. They look tired, hollow, but they're standing and singing. That's something. You recognise one of them, the merchant's son, Rico. He's thinner now, his face sharp with hunger, but he smiles when he sees you. You nod. He nods back. Nothing more needs to be said. Someone lights a candle in the centre of the square, then another. Someone hands you one too. You don't ask where it came from, you just hold it. For a moment you feel almost safe. The plague isn't gone, you know that. The coughing hasn't stopped. The red X's still mark doors like scars, but something's shifted. Not in the disease maybe, but in the people. Your father appears at the edge of the crowd. He doesn't sing, just stands with his arms crossed, watching. That's about as close to optimism as you've seen from him in months. Your mother shows up a few minutes later. She takes your hand. Her fingers are cold but steady. She squeezes once. You squeeze back. And then you hear the flagellants. Not the loud theatrical group from before. These are quieter. They move like shadows, cloaked and chanting, whipping themselves as they walk, their lashes slapping against bare skin with sickening rhythm. One stares at you as he passes. You stare back. He looks away first. Historians still debate whether the flagellants helped spread the plague or just reflected the madness it left behind. You wonder what it must feel like to believe your pain is a cure. You hope you never find out. The next morning the chapel doors open. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. They've been locked for weeks. The priest steps outside and nods to those gathered. He looks like death warmed over, but he's upright and breathing, and that's the new gold standard. He offers mass, no communion, no incense, just words. You sit near the back and listen. You don't follow everything. Your mind drifts to your brother, to the doll-faced girl, to Bernard and Beatrice, who have both quietly retreated, leaving behind small scars and a vague sense of betrayal. Afterward, the priest speaks quietly to your mother. You don't hear what he says, but she cries, then hugs him. You stand awkwardly beside them, not sure whether to join in or give them space. Outside, someone starts sweeping the square. Another begins boarding up a broken window. Someone else hauls a cart of firewood and distributes it among 3 homes. No one says a word. Everyone just does what needs doing. You find yourself doing it too. You patch the hole in your roof, fix the latch on the front door, wash the cloths that haven't been touched in days. It's strange how quickly the body remembers survival. And then there's the boy, the one with the bucket. You see him again days later. He's standing by the well, holding a ladle and handing water to an old woman with a cane. He doesn't speak, just pause, nods and wait. You smile at him, this time he nods back. You light another candle that night. Not for the dead, though there are plenty to honour, but for the living, for the ones who are still here, for the ones rebuilding in the ashes of what used to be. You sit beside the fire and listen to the wind outside. There are still coughs, still the occasional bell, but there's also the sound of hammers now, of footsteps that don't run, of the doors opening instead of closing. The town isn't well. Not yet. But it's breathing again. So are you. You stop counting the days, not because you've forgotten them, but because they've stopped meaning anything. Time no longer moves in straight lines. It circles, it loops, it folds in on itself like dough being kneaded by invisible hands. One morning is foggy, the next is clear, but they both feel the same. You wake up without sweating through the blanket. That's something. Bernard and Beatrice, once your unwelcome roommates, have left for good. All that remains is the faint soreness beneath your jaw and a small patch of skin that itches when it rains. You decide to take that as a victory. There's more food in the house than you remember. Your father's been trading with the people across the square. Some dried beans for firewood, a bit of oil for onions that taste more like sorrow than spice. Still, it fills your belly. And for the first time in months you feel full. Your mother is speaking again. Short sentences, usually about practical things. Boil the water first, don't eat that apple. Someone has left a sack of flour by the chapel steps. But there's colour in her face now, and sometimes if she thinks no one's looking, she hums. And you've started walking more. Not far. Just around the block. If block still describes an area with 3 standing houses, 2 burned shells and a 1 building occupied entirely by chickens. You pass the same faces every time. The merchant's son Rico, the one-eyed baker, a midwife who seems to have outlived everyone she ever delivered. You nod to each other, sometimes even smile. And here's the strange part. New people start showing up. Not many, just a few. Travellers maybe, or families from the outskirts who heard your town wasn't a ghost anymore. They come cautiously, peering around corners, clinging to one another like wind-blown laundry. But they come. You help patch up a roof one afternoon. Your arms ache from the work, but the good kind of ache. The kind that says, you're still here, and it matters. You drop a tile and nearly hit your own foot. The priest laughs from below and tells you to aim better next time. You flip him a mock salute. He grins, and you realise his teeth are terrible. You go home smelling of smoke and plaster. Your mother wrinkles her nose and says you smell like the inside of a chimney. You tell her that's probably an improvement. She chuckles, quiet but real. You almost forget how awful things have been. Almost. Because then someone gets sick again. It starts the usual way. A cough, a chill, a swollen lump beneath the arm. Your stomach sinks. The whole town seems to hold its breath. But this time, people act differently. The family is quarantined, not shunned. Broth and herbs appear on their doorstep. A watch is set outside their home, not to keep them in, but to make sure they have what they need. Historians still argue whether communities developed some sort of herd resistance by the 2nd or 3rd wave. Others think people simply got better at not dying. You're not sure, but you know this. When fear came knocking this time, it wasn't alone. It met kindness at the door. And that's new. You light candles every night now. Not out of fear, but routine. You line them along the windowsill, just like your mother used to do when you were little and afraid of storms. Now they're there for other people, to say, we're still alive in here, you're not alone. One evening, Rico shows up at your door with a small pouch of flour and 2 eggs. He says he's found a recipe for something called bread that doesn't taste like regret. You're sceptical, but you let him try. It's lumpy, a little burnt, but you eat it anyway. It's the best thing you've tasted all season. Later, you sit by the fire and tell stories, not about saints or wars or kings, but about strange things, like the time a goat wandered into the bathhouse and refused to leave, or how you once thought Bernard might develop a personality. Everyone laughs, even your father. It's the first time you've seen him smile since your brother died. You think he would have liked this night? You think he's somewhere listening? You hope so. The stars are out when you step outside, clear and cold and bright enough to make you squint. You trace constellations with your finger, naming them wrong on purpose. That one's the chicken. That one's the leaky roof. That one over there, the eternal itch. You laugh to yourself, not loudly, just enough. You walk back into the house, shut the door softly, and feel the warmth settle over you like a blanket. The plague isn't over. You know that. It might never truly be. But tonight, you're not just surviving. You're living. You start your day with warm water. That's it. Nothing fancy. Just water that's been boiled and cooled slightly, poured into a wooden cup that still smells faintly of herbs. It tastes like survival, like something earned. You drink slowly, feeling it spread through you like light through a fogged window. Your mother's already awake, tending to the hearth. She moves more steadily now. She even hums again, not just by accident this time, but like she means it. You recognise the tune. It's the lullaby she used to sing when you were small and afraid of thunderstorms. You don't say anything, you just listen. Outside, the streets are still mostly bare, but the silence feels different now, not like a void but a pause, the kind that comes just before something good happens. You watch a child, someone new to town, chase a dog past the well. They both look too thin, but they're running, and that's more than most could say 2 months ago. You walk to the chapel later that morning, not for a service, those are still rare, but to help repair the stone wall that crumbled after the last frost. You lift rocks beside Rico, who keeps offering architectural advice despite knowing absolutely nothing about construction. He claims to be spiritually descended from masons. You ask what that means. He says it probably involves wine and shouting. You laugh until your ribs hurt. The priest brings out a loaf of real bread, flour, yeast, even herbs. He breaks it in half and hands it to you and Rico. Miracle, he says. Or maybe just a trader who owed me a favour. Either way, it's soft and warm and gone in seconds. Chapel's cat, who is presumed dead, reappears that afternoon. She struts across the courtyard like she owns it, which she probably does. Your mother claims it's a sign of what she doesn't say, but you agree anyway. You find yourself talking more, not about the plague, that's still too raw, but about what comes next. The fields need planting, the roofs need mending. There's talk of a school starting back up. A girl named Alina has a slate and some chalk. That's enough to teach letters, she says. You volunteer to help. You don't know why. Maybe because someone should. There's still sickness. A boy across town falls ill. He recovers. A woman near the tannery doesn't. The pattern is erratic, cruel and wholly uninterested in fairness. But people respond faster now. Neighbours take shifts at each other's bedsides. Children carry buckets between homes. Someone has even started boiling linens in a communal pot. Historians still argue whether this shift, the sudden rise in mutual care, was born of necessity or newfound empathy. You don't care which. You're just glad it's here. You visit the field behind the chapel. Oh, it's grown quiet again, but not in the same way. There are markers now, stones with scratched initials, small wooden crosses, a line of prayer beads nailed into the bark of an old tree. You find your brother's spot and sit beside it. You don't cry, not today. Instead, you tell him about the bread, about the cat, about the boy who sneezed so hard he fell into a bucket. You swear you hear the wind laugh. You smile and press your palm against the soil. It's warmer than you expect. You return home to find your mother dusting the shelves. She's humming again. Your father is carving something, a spoon maybe, or a handle. He offers no explanation. You don't ask for one. It's just nice to see his hands moving. That night someone plays music, real music. A man on a battered lute sings an off-key song about wine and moonlight. The strings are out of tune. His voice cracks. People still gather around him in the square like he's royalty. You sit on the ground, elbows on your knees, and listen. The stars are back clearer than ever. You trace constellations again, this time with names your brother would have liked. The Big Rat, the Leaping Onion, Bernardus Major. You tell Rico about Bernard and Beatrice. He's horrified and delighted. Did they talk? He asks. Did they betray you? You say Bernard was always more of a brooder. Beatrice had opinions. Rico bows solemnly and says he will light a candle in their honour. You can't stop laughing. You catch your mother smiling at you from across the fire. She mouths, "You're still here." And you are. That night you dream of warmth. Not fire, but summer. A breeze through a tall grass. Bees humming near fig trees. Laughter echoing off stone walls. You walk barefoot through a field and every step feels like a beginning. You wake slowly. The light is soft, golden. You stretch and feel everything from your fingertips to the arches of your feet, and it all works. Nothing aches beyond repair, nothing screams. You're not just alive, you're wholes. The days are longer now, not by much, but you notice. The light lingers on the rooftops a little later, rests on your hands a little warmer, slips through the window just a bit earlier each morning. You start waking before the fire's lit, and for once it's not because of fever or fear, it's just habit. Your body has finally stopped expecting to die. You help your father mend the door. It's been hanging crooked since winter, but no one cared until now. He teaches you how to sand the wood with riverstone, how to wedge a splinter just right to straighten the frame. You nod, pretending to listen, mostly because the sound of his voice is comforting. Later, you find your mother outside tending a small row of sprouts behind the house. They're barely poking through the thawed soil, but she watches them like they're holy. She says they're leeks. You tell her they look like green whispers. Ugh. She tells you to get more water. You visit the market again. It's not what it used to be. Just a few tables, a cart, a nervous dog sniffing a sack of onions. But it's there. Someone is selling cloth scraps. Another has a handful of dried fruit. A young girl is drawing chalk symbols on the stones, claiming they'll protect your house from the next wave. You buy one for a pebble. It's probably nonsense, but she's too hopeful to disappoint. Rico's there too, naturally. He's trying to barter a single egg for a handful of figs. Neither party knows how to haggle, so you step in and make them both feel like winners. Rico bows theatrically and says he'll name his next bubo after you. You say he's not allowed to get another one. He agrees, but not convincingly. You bring the figs home. Your mother stares at them like they've fallen from heaven. You each eat one slowly, savouring it. The sweetness is almost too much, too real. You laugh when your father coughs from surprise. He rolls his eyes, but he doesn't stop smiling. You hear singing again that night. The same man with the lute. He's better now. Or maybe your ears have grown fond of the off-key way he hits notes like they owe him money. A few people join in this time. Not loud, just a gentle hum. You sit in the square, candle in your lap, and let the sound carry you. Your thoughts drift, not to the dead, but to the almosts, the things that nearly ended you. Bernard and Beatrice, the cart that passed your door, the priest who mumbled last rites over people younger than you. You survived all of it. You're still not sure how. Historians still argue what made some people live and others not. Better air, more robust immune systems, sheer dumb luck. You don't know, you just know you're here. There's talk of rebuilding. Not just homes, but lives, relationships, faith. The weaver's widow is courting the beekeeper. The gravedigger's apprentice is learning to bake. A boy who used to steal from carts now guards the market with a stick and a very serious face. You help repair the schoolhouse roof. Someone finds old slates under the floorboards. You carve your name into one and place it on the highest shelf. Reminder, you were here. You mattered. You dream again. Not of death, but of green things. Trees heavy with apples. Streams that run clear and cold. Your brother's laughter, echoing as he runs through the tall grass. You reach out and don't feel grief. Just warmth. You wake slowly. Light filters in through the window. You stretch, bones crackling like a thawing forest. Your mother hums in the next room. Your father is already outside talking to someone in the street. And you, for the first time in a long while, don't dread the day. You rise, open the window and let the morning in. The wind smells like wet earth and something new. Not in some mystical, fate-touched way, it's just different, softer. It doesn't carry that sharp, coppery edge anymore. No scent of old sickness, no dry rot curling around the chimneys. Now it smells like fields waking up, like moss warming on stone, like firewood that burned clean. You lean out the window to feel it on your face. It's cool, but kind. The sort of breeze that makes you want to stretch like a cat and start walking for no reason at all. So you do. The street looks almost cheerful, a fresh coat of mud from last night's rain, yes, but still. Children are drawing shapes in the muck. One boy wears a hat too large for his head and insists he's the mayor now. Nobody argues. You wave to him. He salutes back. It's probably legally binding. Your feet lead you past homes that once sat heavy and silent. Now there's sound. Hammering, sweeping, even laughter. The red X's have faded or been scrubbed away. In their place, chalk hearts, painted suns, little symbols of reclamation. You pass the tanner's shop, boarded up for months, but today the door is open. Inside, someone's cleaning. You recognise her from before the worst of it. She lost her father early on. She waves. You wave back. It's wordless, but it feels like a conversation. You keep walking and it hits you. The town is still here. You weren't sure it would be. You weren't sure you would be, but here it is, patched and battered and thin. But here, like a person who has just come out of a long illness and is rediscovering the joy of sunlight. Your legs carry you up the hill beyond the chapel, to the ridge where the wildflowers used to grow. They are not blooming yet, but you can see them trying. Little green shoots, just beneath the soil's crust. You crouch and run your fingers through the grass. It's damp and stubborn and alive. And here's the thing, no one teaches you how to re-enter the world. There are no sermons, no scrolls, no rules for what to do once the plague loosens its grip. So everyone's making it up as they go. You see it in how they talk, slower, more deliberate. Like each word carries a weight. You hear it in the music, less performance, more prayer. Even the priest seems gentler now. He's taken to blessing vegetables at the market, just in case, he says. Historians still argue what the long-term effects of the plague were. On religion, on culture, on people's sense of time. Some say it made folks more cynical. Others say it created a wave of tenderness. You think maybe it did both. Because here you are, sitting in a patch of sun, watching your town try to be a town again. And it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. You return home that evening with dirt on your knees and a pebble in your shoe. You give your mother a handful of wild herbs you found near the chapel steps. She sniffs them and says they smell like stubbornness. You tell her that suits the family. She laughs, a real one this time. You commit it to memory. Later you gather in the square for supper. Not everyone shows up, but enough do. There's stew and bread and something that might be wine, but also might be a medical experiment. No one complains. You eat with your hands, with your neighbours, with your whole heart. Rico makes a toast with a cracked mug. To those who stayed. To those who returned. And to those who won't be forgotten. You raise your own cup. It's just water, but it tastes like belonging. You sleep well that night. Not the fevered unconsciousness of illness, not the stunned collapse of grief, just sleep. Honest, warm, boring sleep. When you dream you walk through a clean street at dusk. Your brother runs ahead of you laughing, no cough in his chest. Your mother waves from the window. Bernard and Beatrice are nowhere to be found. Niccolo the rat is writing poetry under a lantern. You smile in your sleep, and when the morning comes, you open your eyes to a soft breeze, golden light, and the quiet sound of someone humming outside your window. It's going to be a good day. You've started measuring time by sounds, not by dates or feasts or the tolling of bells. Those feel like relics now, but by the soft clatter of a market cart rolling over stone, the rhythm of your father's knife carving wood again, the snip of your mother trimming thread, the giggle of a child splashing in a water bucket. These are the new markers of life. Quiet, unassuming, precious. It's been weeks since you last felt afraid when someone coughed. That alone feels like a kind of miracle. You visit the well early, just as the mist is lifting from the stones. The boy with the bucket is there again. He doesn't say much, he never does, but he hands you the rope like it's a sacred task. You lower it down, hear the faint splash, the turn of the pulley, the rope creaking. When the bucket comes up, it's full of clear, cold water. You take a sip straight from your cupped hands. It's the best thing you've tasted all week. The chalk hearts have started fading in the streets, worn down by spring rain and footsteps. But someone's replaced them with daisy chains. They hang from doorways, drape over fences, even curl around the chapel gate. You don't know who's making them, but you hope they never stop. There's talk of rebuilding the wall that guards the edge of town. Not because of any real threat. No armies, no wolves, no looming plague fogs, but because it feels right. A sign that the town can choose its shape again. You help stack the stones, your fingers raw from the work but steady. Each rock feels like a sentence in a story you thought had ended. The priest gives a small sermon under the open sky. No walls, no candles, just a dozen people standing in a crooked circle while birds chirp in the background. He speaks softly about survival, not as a triumph, but as a responsibility. You nod along, not sure if you agree, but grateful someone's still asking the questions. You help Alina the chalk girl gather stones for her new magic runes. She insists they'll keep fleas away. You try not to laugh. She draws one on your hand with soot and spit. "Now you're protected," she says. You tell her that's the nicest curse you've ever received. You spot Rico teaching two boys how to juggle. He's terrible at it, which is part of the charm. He drops every third turnip, pretends it's on purpose, bows dramatically. One of the boys falls over laughing. You shake your head and offer him an apple to juggle instead. He drops that too, says it's cursed. Someone finds a lute with half its strings broken and strings it up with twine. That night, music drifts through the square again. This time it's not one man alone, but a handful of people taking turns, some singing, some drumming on pots, some clapping completely out of rhythm. You join in, not because you're good at it, but because no one here cares anymore who's good at anything. They just want sound and company. Your mother has started writing again. Letters, mostly. Short notes to cousins in other towns, some likely gone, some perhaps still waiting. She seals them with wax and hope. She gives you one to carry when the next traveller passes through. You tuck it into your coat like a secret. Your father makes you a new spoon. It sounds small. It is small. But it's the kind of thing you didn't think you'd get again. A gift with no purpose other than comfort. It's smooth, carved from old walnut, and fits perfectly in your hand. You eat soup with it that night, not because you need to, but because it feels good. You still have scars under your arms, along your ribs. The skin there feels different now, tight, shiny, like it belongs to someone else. You don't hide them. Everyone has some version of them, physical, emotional, whispered. No one asks anymore. They just nod and understand. Historians still argue how society is truly healed after the Black Death. Whether art bloomed from grief, or cities rose with better walls, or people simply forgot what they'd lost. But walking through your town now, you don't think it's about forgetting. It's about remembering differently. Not the horror, not the tally of losses, not the unending days of fever, but the way people came back together. The laughter that returned like birdsong after a long winter. The way hands reached for each other again without fear. The way a community stitched itself together. Not because it was told to, but because it wanted to. You go to sleep that night with your window open. The air is soft. You can hear someone playing a flute 2 streets away. A dog barking once. The gentle thud of footsteps heading home. And then, nothing but peace. You pull the blanket to your chin and let your eyes close, or the world is not healed. But it is healing, and so are you. You wake to bird song, not a dream, not some fading echo in your fevered mind, but actual birds, chirping, flitting between the rooftop beams, nesting even. For the first time in what feels like your entire life, you wake not with dread or chills or aching joints, but with something softer, something almost like contentment. You stretch, the blanket falls away, and you don't shiver. The fire burned low through the night, but the morning is kind. A thin shaft of golden light rests across the floor. Dust dances in it like it has nothing better to do. You smile. Your mother's already outside talking to the woman who lives 3 houses down. You remember when her door was marked with an X. She survived. So did her son. They're planting onions together now, laughing about something you can't hear. You get dressed. The linen shirt still smells like soap, real soap. Your father made a trade last week. A bag of nails for a bar wrapped in wax paper. You only use it on special days. Today feels like one. You walk through the square and spot Rico trying to fix a chair with one hand while eating a plum with the other. The chair loses. He shrugs and offers you half the plum. You take it. It's sour and wonderful. Planning to die today? He asks, mouth full. Maybe next week, you reply. He grins. It's the sort of grin that says he might just stick around. You both help rebuild a corner of the chapel wall. Someone found old blue paint and decided the stones should be cheerful now. You paint a sun. It looks like a wheel with too many spokes, but no one complains. There's a wedding planned for next week. Can you believe that? A wedding! No one has the right clothes. The priest is still trying to find a page in his book that isn't water damaged. But the couple is in love, and that's apparently enough. You sit on the chapel steps and watch as someone walks by with a baby goat in a basket. The goat bleats. A toddler waves. Life is weird and good. That afternoon you find your mother stitching fabric for new curtain. The old ones were too grey, she says. You don't remind her that everything was grey. That the world itself turned the colour of ash. You just hold the spool of thread and let her sew. Later someone passes out little loaves of bread with dried cherries baked in. You eat yours slowly, letting each bite linger. It tastes like something worth surviving for. You visit your brother's resting place again. This time you bring flowers. Not just any flowers, ones you picked yourself. Little yellow ones that bloom low and wide, like they're trying to hug the earth. You sit beside the marker and talk to him. About nothing, about everything. About how the cat came back, how Rico can't fix chairs, how your mother hums again. You don't cry this time. That night, you gather with others in the square. Candles flicker in bowls and jars and broken mugs. Someone plays music, slow and soft. No singing, just the rise and fall of strings. It washes over you like warm wind. Your mother places her hand on yours. Your father sits with his back against the wall, eyes half closed. Closed, listening. Rico tries to juggle again. Fails. Everyone claps anyway. You look up at the stars. They're clearer than they've ever been. No haze, no clouds, just infinite sky. And you breathe, not shallow, not panicked, Not hiding from fate breath. Just breath. You made it. The world broke, and somehow so did you, but you're still here, and the cracks, they let the light in, so you sit a little longer, and when you finally lie down back under your roof between four walls that still stand with air that smells like earth and wood smoke and promise, you sleep, and it's deep and dreamless and good. So now, as the story slows and the town drifts into quiet evening once more, take one last breath in, and then let it go. The world of the plague, with all its grief and strange, aching resilience, is behind you now. You've made it through the darkness, through the fevers and the fear and the long, silent days when even the birds forgot to sing. You've carried the weight of sorrow and sickness. You've seen doors close for the last time. You've stood beneath heavy skies. And yet still, you are here. Let that thought settle over you like warm wool. Let your limbs go heavy, your breath slow and steady. The worst has passed, the fires are out, the streets are quiet, and the wind outside? It hums gently now, winding between homes that are healing. There's still much to do, crops to plant, songs to write, bread to bake. But not tonight. Tonight, your only job is to rest. Let your thoughts blur like candlelight behind closed eyes. Let the flickers of memory fade. No more worrying, no more wondering. Just sleep. Sleep like someone who has nothing left to fear. Sleep like someone who survived. Because you did. Good night.